Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. I'm Amy Shannon, but you can call me Amy. Thank you for listening. Hello and welcome, and I hope all is well with you. I'm Amy, and I am very pleased to announce the winners of the Amy's Bookshelf Reviews short story contest. This short story, the dates for the contest were April 1st to June 30th, 2024. And there were specific topics. There was an entry fee of $10 per short story. The topics were AI or technical pre- or post-apocalyptic, and genres accepted were sci-fi, romance, supernatural, paranormal, chiller, thriller, or horror. And I had some wonderful stories. Some of the authors sent more than one. And I must say, after reading all of them, it was a very difficult decision. The winners were announced on Amy's Bookshelf Reviews through an email campaign and blog posts, and also on my other website, Essence Enterprises. The winner receives their story posted on the Amy's Bookshelf Review blog. The story is also posted on the Essence Enterprises blog. The story gets published in Literally magazine, which is going to be in the September-October issue, so that is coming up. They also get a free full-page ad in the magazine for a year. And the author gets a priority access on Amy's Bookshelf Reviews Priority Access Bookshelf. And the winner gets their story read on this podcast. So that is what is happening today. There were also a third and second place, and they all received, the two of them received an honorable mention badge. And their story also will be posted, or has been posted, on Amy's Bookshelf Review blog and also on Essence Enterprises blog post. So I want to announce first, the third place winner was the story Delete by Talia Haven. Second place is The Companion by Donald Firesmith. Both are wonderful authors. And the first place is The Sands of Dionysus by Carrie Allen Denny. So I am going to read Carrie's story. The Sands of Dionysus, and by Carrie Allen Denny, and it is a sci-fi / horror. So that's pretty intriguing. And, one of the things when I was reading it, it has to go along with the topics and the genre. So I do that. My first short story contest was kind of like a flop. Only one person entered. But she wrote several different stories, which I absolutely loved. And then I was asked if I would do it again, because some people who wanted to be involved in it had missed it for whatever reason. So I tried it again, and I got some really interesting stories. I love to read short stories. I love to read long novels. So, and I like to write short stories myself. I used to write long novels, and now I just write short stories. So I like to challenge myself, and I like to challenge authors. So that is why I come up with these contests. Sometimes you just need a little lift. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to read The Sands of Dionysus. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but that's how I read it in my mind. Damn her, Rona said, scowling at the temporal parallax chamber, returned her to conscious awareness of her own time and universe. Raya, you lucky flink. You always get the best of everything. Rona's nerves tingled as she accustomed herself to the unsettling effects of interdimensional time travel. Sometimes she worried that she was leaving little pieces of herself in the alternate universe future she visited during her junket. She shivered, then sneered, shifting the blame again. It was all Raya's fault. A year younger than her sister Rona, Raya was celebrating her sweet 16th birthday party right this moment. It seemed like half the population of the recently colonized planet was attending, their arms loaded down with expensive gifts. Most of the gifts were genuine tokens of affection, but Rona knew some were given to incur future favors from the brilliant little scientist. Raya was so popular that the Palladium, the new auditorium that was all the rage for concerts, plays, indoor festivals, and trade show, was standing room only tonight. Rona and Raya's parents certainly hadn't rented the auspicious venue for Rona's 16th birthday last year. Rona felt like puking, part of the reason her adjustment to temporal and interdimensional relocation. But mostly it was because she was sick to death of all the admiration and praise, none of which she was getting. Raya's just brighter than Dionysus' blazing sun itself. Mark my word, that girl's gonna be famous. It wouldn't surprise me if she ends up curing Krillion's corruption. Just the right combination of maturity, insight, compassion, and genius. The Creator's gift to us all. Blah, blah, blah. Ugh. Rona swallowed hot bile. Maybe she needed to cut back on the unauthorized jumps through time and dimension. This had only been about her 30th trip. She had lost count. She felt a little, not all here at the moment, as if waiting for the rest of her to catch up from the potential future she had just witnessed firsthand. Naturally, Raya had been the shining star in that prospective future, too. When was the last time she hadn't been? String theory and quantum physics had always posited the existence of alternate dimensions, parallel worlds in which different but mostly the same Ronas and Rayas lived, grew up, loved, lost, procreated, thrived, or perished. After thousands of years spent perfecting interstellar space travel and colonizing stars, humankind had achieved amazing advances in quantum physics. They had created the temporal Palax chamber, portals that function as time machines that took your conscious awareness to endless possible futures in the parallel dimensions. You were only partway there, a casual observer, rarely able to interact with people you encountered, translucent, insubstantial, often invisible, basically a ghost haunting other futures' existence in which you was a physical participant. Sometimes they saw you, and rare but significant, sometimes they heard you speak. Rona still got the space chills whenever she saw one of her future alternate selves. She called them other Ronas, had nightmares about them, but the knowledge she gained in her forays made up for the sleep she lost. The good thing about her parents renting the Palladium tonight was that none of the partygoers had seen Rona sneak out. They were all too busy fawning over Little Miss Perfect. Rona snorted, cracking open the temporal parallax chamber's vacuum-sealed door and peering down the hallway in both directions. No one else here tonight. Good. She didn't need the ethics committee issuing her more demerits for taking unauthorized trips. Cracking sanctimonious Gretches, she muttered, sneaking down the hallway toward the exit, careful to evade the security cams. She had memorized their locations and found their blind spots. Sure, her trip had been recorded. They all were. Basic security protocol. But no one would know Rona had taken this jaunt. She snickered as she slipped outside the entrance archway. Poor, trusting Raya. She had left her portal ID chip at home tonight and would never know her beloved sister had borrowed it. The thought never crossed the naive little flink's mind. In Raya's worshipping eyes, her older sister Rona was her confidant, her dependable guardian, keeper of all her secrets. If the chamber's administrators discovered Rona's unauthorized jump tonight, they would scratch their head for weeks trying to figure out how Raya had taken the trip when she was celebrating her infinite wonderness all night at her birthday party. It wasn't like Rona and Raya were all that different anyway, physically. People often mistook them for one another until they spoke. Rona could never imitate Raya's cheery courteousness or her doe-eyed wonder or match her astounding intellect. It wasn't fair because of this economic turmoil surrounding the recent colonization of Dionysus. They were 1 year shy of the 25th anniversary. Credits were still tight. Jack and Risa Koch weren't about to allow their daughters access to their accounts. Not until the establishment stabilized, which could take years, each one taking one standard Earth's months longer than a revolution around Old Sol. Rona wasn't willing to wait that long. Until times got better, sweet, innocent Raya would give the mother a share of rewards. She would get the shiny new flyer. Rona would get a hand-me-down flyer, probably their father's old clunky one. The thing's anti-grav on the fritz half the time. Rona scowled as she pictured herself flying the junker while Raya whooshed past above her, then imagined herself crashing into the horizon-spanning crimson bluffs above the mighty Sapphire River in a tangle of crunching metal and mangled body parts. Yeah, right, correct that shit. Excuse my language. All because of the substantial difference in their grades. Raya would be sent to lauded Tempest Medical University amid a fanfare of trumpets and adoring fans waving banners, while Rona got sent to community college to learn a cracking trade. Raya would marry the cream of the Dionysus crop, make the smartest, most handsome babies, and solve the world's medical problems to glorious acclaim. Rona would get stuck with a tradesman who couldn't keep a credit to his name because of his alcohol or drug addiction, or his obsession with the horrors lurking in the taverns and pharmaceutical parlors. Rona knew this. She hadn't seen it. Well, not in this dimension. You couldn't visit the future of your own dimension because of some cracked-up quantum physics thing. She didn't understand it. Raya did, because she was a genius. But Rona had seen enough of her physical counterparts' dismal futures in alternate dimensions to know that she was likely bound for frustration and failure in this dimension, while Raya was bound for fortune and fame. Well, someone had to turn that around. Rona figured it was her duty, her destiny. For now, she had to hurry back to the party so she could give the guest of honor her most amazing birthday present of all. Rona's steps were as sure as she jogged toward the palladium, her breathing, even because she stayed fit. One small thing which Raya did not exceed her sister. The ambient light of the Dionysus' 2 rising moons illuminated the trail along the Sapphire River in chrome tones accented by deep blue shadows. In 10 minutes she saw the palladium's festive glowing lights across the dusty landscape through gnarled vegetation. Slowing to a brisk walk, she ran her fingers through her hair to straighten out the kinks, wiped a sheen of sweat from her brow and cheeks, brushed Dionysus' ubiquitous red dust off her jumpsuit and boots, scanned the parking lot. Everyone was still inside celebrating, except for a couple guards posted outside to keep the wild animals from climbing into the open flyers and giving their owners an unwelcome surprise when they finally left the party and headed home. Good. The guards were watching 4, 6, 8-legged predators, along with the slithering kind, and not 2-legged late party attendees. If they even saw Rona, they wouldn't remember her. She was a nobody. She sauntered back inside, unnoticed by anyone as usual. She found the star of the show crouched beside an anti-grav chair. One of Raya's friends hung in the chair with her feeble hands curled into claws. Ditra or Destra or something like that. Most of the party attendees were saying their farewells for wishes for health and success for Raya. Rona approached her sister, again unnoticed. For the moment, Raya had only eyes for Ditra, or whatever her name was. Rona swallowed spontaneous bile and forced herself not to grimace. About Raya's age, the girl in the anti-grav chair had Krillians. Had it bad. 4th or 5th stage. Bloody pups leaked from open lesions on the girl's arms, legs, and face. Blisters swelled under the surface of her skin, slowly festering and soon to burst. Her feet were so cracked up that she couldn't walk anymore. In mere weeks, the corruption would reach her lungs and internal organs, forcing a gradual and unimaginably painful shutdown. Not a merciful end, because its victims remained totally cognizant of every little increasing spike of pain. They compared it to suffocating while slowly boiling alive. Even the strongest drugs failed to relieve the torture. The tiny miracle, far too late for Ditra or whoever, was that in her home lab, Raya had already concocted a bacterium that slowly ate some of the Krillian cells, but it only staved off the initial effects of the insidious infection. If it were contagious, like the corona plagues of the distant Earth's ancient history, Krillian's corruption would be a species killer, the harbinger of a universal extinction event. But all of Dionysus' best scientists had determined conclusively that it was not contagious. According to them, you couldn't catch it by touching its victims, being exposed to their saliva, blood, or pus, or breathing the same air they breathe. For all they really know, you got infected by breathing the omnipresent red sands of Dionysus, or space dust that infiltrated the interstellar transport ship's air circulators. Or by thinking too hard, Rona thought. Who the crick knew? All she knew for sure was that she needed every bit of her inner strength to pull off her masterful plan. Raya gently clutched the girl's hands with a beatific smile that had won her hordes of fans. She stroked the girl's sweaty bangs out of her weepy eyes. Rona mustered a sickly smile and kneeled beside the chair next to Raya. Only the imminent fruition of her plan prevented her from retching. "Thank you so much for coming," Raya said to her doomed friend. "You're so much stronger than I am, than any of us are." No way in hell was Rona ever going to touch that disgusting girl, but she managed to put a shaky hand on Raya's shoulder as if supporting all of her outrageous fantasies of saving the world. "Happy birthday, Raya," the girl spat out, drooling with the effort. Rona gagged and chewed it back, cracking gross. It sounded like the girl said, "Happy birthday, Raya," because she could barely make her cracked, bleeding lips form the words. Aware her parents were watching, Rona turned her gag into a sob and squeezed out a few tears. Tears were easy to produce. The girl's repulsive stench burned her eyes. It was enough to make a veteran burn, ward, trauma nurse puke. "I'm going to find a cure, I swear it," Raya said, stronger than Rona the girl put together, because she held back tears and exuded that annoying Raya confidence with another beatific smile. "I love you, Raya," the girl said with a cadaverous grin, and her gross spittle flecked Raya's face and Rona's jumpsuit. "I love you." Cracking sick. Rona thrust her hand over her mouth, fighting to not vomit as bile filled her mouth. Raya grabbed Rona's other hand and squeezed it, as if feeling her sister's empathetic pain. Somehow Raya found the strength to refrain from the girl's vile spit off her face. "Please, gods, let the crick out of here before I blow regurgitated birthday cake all over this creepy girl, myself, and you, Raya." Maybe the gods were listening. Two adults, likely the wretched girl's parents, stepped up beside the anti-grav chair. Their tear-filled eyes leaked, but they had smiles of infinite adoration for little Miss Perfect. Rona stood on trembling legs and pulled her sister up beside her. "Come on, Raya," she managed to choke out. "It's time for your present." "Can Dexter come?" Raya asked with a get-everything-she-wants smile. She looked at the girl's parents. "I promise I'll stay with her the whole time, take care of her, bring her back safely. I know she'll just want to see this." Rona's voice rasped. "Gods, Raya, what were the words she was straining for? So naive, such a hopeless dreamer, or so clueless what it's really about? So cracking brave," she blurted, unconcerned about cursing in front of others. "And very much braver than all of us put together." Dexter beamed a ghastly smile, and her rotting teeth made Rona flinch back. "It's okay, I'll come next time." "It's okay, I'll come next time." Sick. "Yes, next time," Rona said, knowing this girl wouldn't get a next time. She grabbed her sister's hand. "Come on, Raya, the moons are rising, and they're both full tonight. We have to hurry." Raya's smile was gone, but she nodded and said goodnight to the dying girl. Jack and Risa squeezed out teary-eyed smiles for their daughters. Then, as he had reluctantly agreed to earlier, Jack handed his flyer's control fob to Rona. He started to speak, but Rona interrupted him. "I know, Dad. Be wary of the faulty anti-grav lurches. I'll be as careful as a surgeon doing a brain transplant, I swear. Come on, Raya." Out of the Palladum's archway, before anyone could object, hand in hand all the way, running as if Dionysus' fierce winds were trying to stop them. And then they were strapped into the family flyer, taking off towards the famous bluffs that nearly divided the planet in two halves. Horatio and Othello, Dionysus' moons, only rose full side by side in southern hemisphere once every 6 years. They looked like an astronomically gargantuan pair of lantern eyes as they hovered over the horizon. Rona parked atop the cliff and gasped as they exited the flyer. She took her sister's hand, partly because the plan demanded it, and partly because her awe could barely encompass the spectacle. "Not too close," Raya said, her voice quavering. "Just a little closer," Rona said, pulling her sister towards the craggy ridge's edge. They both gasped an "ah" together as they reached the drop-off. Their parents had spent their belated honeymoon atop these mighty bluffs 12 years ago when Rona was just 5, and bragged about it until Rona's endless pleading convinced them to let her share it with her sister on her 16th birthday. "It's so," Raya gulped. "So." "Yes, it is," Rona said, smiling for real now. Finally. But could she do it? How brave, how determined was she? In her mind's eye, she saw all her time travel and her interdimensional jaunts, the future as it might be for parallel worlds, and subsequently, more likely, for this world too. All her losses added up from visions of other existences of alternate selves. All of Raya's gains stacked up against Rona's countless failures. The temporal parallax chamber's vision had to be accurate, representative of cumulative truth whose consequences could only be altered by immediate, decisive action. Too many sad Ronas, too many happy, confident Rayas. Damn it, had she seen the infinite truths with her own eyes. Risked far too much to hesitate now to stop herself from winning one cracking once. Yet doubt still assailed her. She squeezed Raya's hand, begging the gods for deliverance from this cruel choice, asking all the alter-dimensional other Ronas to do this wicked deed for her. After all, they were the ones who suffered, all the other Rayas to live, not she. Only she had been cursed with the visions of the awful things that were destined to be across so many dimensions that it had to hold true for this one too, didn't it? "Please take this burden from me." Raya solved Rona's quandary. She turned and gave Rona that damned angel smile, so confident, so determined, so assured of her place in every dimension. "Thank you, Rona. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, ever imagined. The most perfect birthday present ever." Tears sprang out of Raya's eyes and rolled down her cheeks. "I love you so much." Rona chucked down a sob. "I love you too, Raya. I'm so sorry." Eyes blurring, her hand wrenched out of Raya's and pushed her over the edge. Horatio and Othello watched, not judging. "Hurry, have to finish the last touches of the plan. Ignore the sudden heartache of loss and finality. Ignore Raya's never-ending scream." Gods, it seemed to echo into infinity, accusing her as if she were responsible for the horrible truths that the other worlds revealed. "Run to the flyer, crank it back up." Long way down, Rona rose and descended with her guts and heart left in the shifting sands atop the bluff. Raya was still falling, still screaming. Her cry lost its fury of betrayal as her body bashed against the rocky cliff side. Tears distorted Rona's vision. "Come on, damn flyer, show me how unreliable you are. Show Mom and Dad, damn you." She shifted into overdrive and praying as if she actually expected to swoop below Raya's body and catch it in midair. Metal ground against metal, and the flyer lurched. Yes! Closer to the Sapphire's raging rapids, catching the odor of something burning, maybe rubber or synthetic components. Another lurch. Raya's tumbling body was just 100 feet over Sapphire now. Close enough to hopefully survive, Rona begged her sister's new ghost for forgiveness and dived out of the crashing flyer. She splashed into the rolling waters, knowing she had damned herself in multiple worlds. Moments later, sputtering and gasping for her breath, she tumbled and smashed against the unyielding boulders by Sapphire's eastern shore, and blessed darkness swallowed her. Beyond the constant pain, recovery was easy. She didn't have to explain anything because her jaw was wired shut, so she suffered quietly. Sometimes she thought she heard her lost humanity crying foul, or was it fool? Hard to tell from the ringing in her ears. For weeks and then months, tears came easily. When her parents, her friends, new and old, or doctors and nurses were around her, which was most of the time, she let them believe her tears express her loss, as opposed to the deep depths of her grief plumbed as remorse. Despite her certainty, she had done the only thing she could do to guarantee herself a bright future. Each of those pain-racked days, she wished the sapphire had stolen her away beyond accusation. Although that had never been the plan, survival and redemption were the ultimate goals. A universe in which she didn't stumble and fall because of the shadow of one girl who should have been her friend instead of her competition. Later, if she survived her injuries, numerous broken bones, bruised internal organs, she could find out if she would reap the rewards of her horrible deed, a secret she would have to take to her grave. All she needed now was the jaunts of the temporal parallax chamber when she could stand on her own two fragile feet again. When she regained the use of her hands and fingers, she communicated a need for a tablet and wrote the whole damn horrible tragedy, hiding the truth in a pack of despicable lies. It was just too beautiful, she wrote. Raya got too close to the edge. I begged her to come back and stand beside me. Then she slipped. I tried to grab her, stop her fall. I died. I swear I died with her. I'm dead. These things were easy to say because the last part was true. The rest, she realized later, was desperation for an acceptance she had never felt, for some confirmation of her silent repentance. She needed redemption, which she wasn't sure she had earned. She's different, people often said before and after the tragedy, and often it was a compliment if they only knew. Different enough to murder my sister. It was supposed to be the best gift ever, she wrote, welcoming Raya into adulthood. I tried to save her in the flyer, find her in the river, then I crashed. That's all I remember until I woke up here in the hospital. I'm so sorry. I feel like I lost half of myself. The last part was true, too. With the current population of 20 million, Dionysus needed a lot of babies all the time. Entire communities took the death of every child personally, as if they had lost someone from their own family, especially a child who clearly bound for glory as Raya had been. Numerous rescue squads searched for Raya for weeks, but the sapphire had swept her body away, lost forever. Rona's story flew. Dionysus' winds had erased all damning evidence of her monstrous deed at the Crimson Bluffs. No one had any reason to doubt her. She had lost her sister, so close to her. A horrible tragedy. So Rona got the royal treatment from her parents, as well as the doctors, community, and media. She was more than just a daughter and a potential mother. She was an invaluable commodity. A gift from the community. She got a top-of-the-line anti-grav chair to help her get around until she could walk again. After 4 months spent convalescing in the hospital, the doctor sent her home to finish recovering there, where she also got the princess treatment. The Kochs weren't about to lose their only remaining child. Risa had been stricken infertile after Raya's birth, so Rona was now the jewel in their eyes. It was a good start, but Rona was aching for a glimpse of what the near future might hold. That the only way to justify her heinous sin. When she was safely settled at home and the media spotlight moved to the more current developments, she started taking every officially approved peek into her alternate future. Each interested citizen was allowed one 30-minute glimpse per week, once per 6 days. The destination for each trip was determined through an educated computer guess based on the traveler's genetics and history, and the traveler always viewed as an alternate dimension. Between 1 to 7 years in the future, as far ahead as the algorithms could accurately calculate. The quantum machine consistently sent the travelers to a potential future in a parallel universe where they encountered their alternate dimensional doppelgangers. No one had figured out why yet, or why travel to the past was impossible. Two quirks in uncertain technology. The equations for a glimpse of the past were too complex for even the machine's computer mind. The interminable 6 days between Rona's trips was agony all in itself. She put all her efforts in her body's rehabilitation so she could start sneaking unauthorized jaunts again and discover her destiny sooner. But it wasn't until her 9th approved trip, only the second one she took walking at last without mechanical assistance as she finally hit the jackpot. Into the chamber, she was smiling as she felt familiar vertigo plunge into momentary darkness. This was going to be an informative trip. She had felt it in her bones. The machine spat her out in a penthouse suite featuring floor-to-ceiling windows with a panoramic view of the coast of the Great Basin Ocean, and her pulse quickened. Probably Caraco, one of the bigger cities. Whoever lived here had to be rich, successful, famous, or a combination of the three. Insubstantial, her projected self floated through the glass. With a gasp of her good fortune, she absorbed the breathtaking scene. Her alternate self from this dimension had to live here. So, how far forward has she been thrown? A familiar voice from behind made her turn, and she smiled as this dimension's future Rona entered the room. Other Rona was beautiful, no more that gangly teenager in her tight curves. She looked about 24. The machine had sent Rona approximately 7 years ahead, its maximum reach. Rona sucked in an excited breath when she saw the man following other Rona into the suite. Ridiculously handsome, about 27, muscled, with an impressive ochre beach tan. He and other Rona were decked out in 100% Priskin casuals, the planet's finest natural fiber for high-quality clothing. Other Rona grinned and let out a happy sigh as she spun into the man's embrace, threw her arms around his neck, and kissed him. Excellent. Her husband? Rona realized she was crossing her fingers. Neither of the two saw her. She was invisible on this trip, fine with her. Her heart was palpitating as the other Rona spoke to the man. I have the most wonderful news, Kate. I've been waiting all day to share it. The perfect name for a total Adonis, Rona thought, barely able to catch her breath. Kate grinned, nuzzled other Rona, and kissed her again. Oh yeah? Did my intrepid little explorer conquer new uncharted territory again? Well, yes, that too. Rich soil, a cornucopia of invaluable ores, primo real estate, a huge score for us and our fellow Dionysians. We're going to be even richer, but that's only part of the good news. That's my girl, Kate said, laughing. And even more good news, don't keep your poor husband in suspense. He's about to burst. Yes, Rona thought, clasping her hands as if giving thanks for an answered prayer. Apparently, other Rona was a territory prospector, not just a highly paid, adventurous, and important job, but a prestigious one, too. She had to have graduated summa cum laude from an acclaimed university as one of the planet's eminent new geologists to nail that job. In answers to Cade's question, other Rona gave him an enigmatic smile, lowered a hand to her belly, and rubbed it. Another one? Hooting, Kane picked her up and spun her around as they laughed together. God be praised, what flavor. A girl this time. I want to name her Raya, okay? Absolutely. He smothered her with kisses, and she started giggling. Oh, Rona, your sister would have been so proud of you. The faraway look of guilt Rona glimpsed in the other Rona's teary eyes nearly spoiled the moment. This was almost too much good news. Rona got the hiccups from being on the verge of hyperventilating and frantically fanned her face to keep her from passing out. More good news came running into the room, accompanied by boyish shouts and laughter. Two blond boys, one about 5 and the other one smaller, about 4, ran towards other Rona and Cade, who snatched each one up in their arms with big grins. Adorable boys, clearly happy and healthy. A girl in her mid-teens carrying a backpack, and each hand slumped against the door frame and waved, frazzled but smiling, probably their au pair. The room was filled with universally daily chatter. How was your day? What did you learn today? Did you make any new friends? Tears of joy sprang to Rona's eyes, and she covered her mouth with her hands. My baby, she thought, my precious family, my future is blessed. Before she could soak in more of this blissful scene, she snapped back to a full physical awareness in the chamber. She stifled a squeal and more excitement than she could ever remember being. Surely this incredible good fortune must spread to the other dimensions, especially this one. She could hardly wait till her next jaunt forward to find out more, discover alternate realities with similar great news. Her body was almost healed now. She walked with barely a perceptible limp. The several weeks and then months flew faster than the swarm Dionysus Hornets. During that time, she took each trip with increasingly newfound eagerness, and every authorized peak, along with the 2 to 3 additional covert jaunts per week by resorting to her former sneaky tactics. It wasn't like the temporal Palix chamber portal was ever guarded with any real enthusiasm or strict attention, and computer security was lax and easy to circumvent. For the most of the planet's citizens, the novelty had worn off a long time ago, and all the forward glimpses only showed possible futures, and only in alternate dimensions. To most of Rona's peers, a chamber jaunt was more of a lark, something you did on a boring weekend when nothing better came up. But to Rona, it was eventual glory etched in granite. It had to be real, with comparable positive results in other dimensions. After numerous subsequent trips, a pattern emerged. In each reality, the other Ronas were all successful, famous, deliriously happy, and blessed with enviable husbands and lovely children. The theme came so common that Rona's sense of awe and wonder transformed into incredulity. Would she ever discover another future which Raya survived? Had all the countless other Ronas murdered their brilliant little sister as she had? Long before, her search for a surviving other Raya became an obsession. Rona was accepted with full scholarship at Chigo University, a local college that kept her close to home and her parents, and one of the New World's most prestigious schools. Taking a cue from the jaunt where she first glimpsed a successful other Rona, she majored in geology. Time passed in a whirlwind of good news and good fortune, and at 25, Rona's dreamed of limitless success, an ideal career, and the perfect family had all come true. She, her gorgeous husband Rix, and their 2 boys, Jex and Tyre, were the envy of all her peers. Despite her success, her search for a surviving other Raya grew more frantic. She finally found the one when she was pregnant with her 3rd child. A girl this time, just like her first fruitful other Rona had viewed. Rix eagerly agreed to name the girl Raya. At the beginning of her 2nd trimester, Rona discovered an alternate universe where Little Miss Perfect had survived with possibly the best news of all. Rona experienced a jaunt with an unexpected and overwhelming relief. The temporal Palix chamber snapped her into the palladium during an award ceremony in progress. No one saw Rona's time travel ghost. This was another invisible trip, as most of them had been. Raya stood on stage at the podium, bathed in the warmth of flattering spotlights. She was about 26, a potential future glimpse 2 years beyond Rona's present time. Raya's raven locks gleamed in the auditorium lights. She was so beautiful and happy. The vision stole Rona's breath away. Her skin tingled in anticipation as the other Raya spoke through the microphone. Yes, I'm all flattered, but not nearly as happy and relieved. But this award, she held up a shiny trophy about a meter tall, shouldn't have been given to just me, just because I couldn't have done it without my dedicated, tireless, and brilliant team, and we especially could never have accomplished this unprecedented feat without my best friend, my sister, and my idol, my guardian angel, Rona. The other Raya beamed at the group seated in the front row. Rona looked. Other Rona glowed with pride-filled tears, her belly bulging with new life like the overinflated balloon about to pop. And on her left sat an adorable boy about 6, whose hand she gripped tightly. The handsome man to her right clutched her other's hand with the hand of an irresistible little cutie to his right, a boy about 5. Beside the boy sat Risa Kog, Rona and Raya's mother, a little grayer, with a lined face and crow's feet, and a far-off sadness in her eyes, but otherwise equally as happy. Jack Kog was conspicuously absent. Another perfect family, unaccountably and disconcertingly like Rona's trips forward in time and sideways in dimension where Raya hadn't survived. Where my other selves murdered their sister. They all wept tears of unmistakable joy. I love you, Rona, other Raya continued. I love you all so much, our beautiful families. I only wish our father was here to celebrate. She gazed across the audience. Rona, the best research specialist, and my priceless team, all of you, you're the best one anyone can hope for or dream of. I'm so privileged and honored to have worked with you all. You're the ones that should be receiving this award. You and all the victims who gave up their lives to help fight this terrible scourge. That's why I'm donating this award in all their names, especially in our father's name, Rona, to the Crillians Memorial Hall. She thrust the award above her head, beaming with trademark Raya's smile. Rona's heart gave an unexpected lurch. The scene blurred as tears filled her eyes, and other Raya didn't need a microphone as she concluded her acceptance speech. No longer will parents have to watch their precious children suffer and die. Children lose their parents, friends lose their families, and friends to this horrible, ravaging disease. Together we have cured Crillian's corruption. The cheers and applause echoed off the rafters as the packed audience crowd rose for a standing ovation, louder than the most audacious pop star's performance, more filled with joy than a choir of angels singing. Tonight, at least in this dimension, Dionysians would be dancing in the streets until the sun rose. Rona could barely breathe. Home, she rasped, her code word to make the chamber return from her jaunts before her allotted time was up. The transformation didn't happen fast enough. She had to get out of here. Home, home, home. Finally, she blinked back into the chamber. Her legs wobbled like brittle twigs as she staggered out of the building. Halfway home, she collapsed beside a boulder jutting out of the Sapphire River's shore. She clutched her growing belly to prevent her gut-wrenching sobs from harming her unborn Raya. Glaring at the deep blue waters and the pitiless rapids, she tried to evict the voices in her head. Oh, Raya, I'm so sorry, so crutching goddamn sorry. For a while she let the grief reign, wishing those relentless waters had drowned her alongside her perfect sister, just as sorrow now drowned her spirit. Some incalculable time later, as twilight descended and the moons rose over the horizon, she slowly stood and returned home. Cursed or not, she had a precious family to take care of, a new baby to nurture and protect, a suddenly lackluster career to resume. I swear I'll take care of them, love them like I should have loved you, Raya. On all my lives, I swear it. She wouldn't dare beg her sister's ghost for forgiveness again, not that she had that much appalling gall. Everything would be all right. She would make everything all right. No more trips into prospective futures in alternate dimensions that were less than half real. No more. As she approached home, she belatedly realized she had spent so much time and effort gazing into potential futures of parallel dimension. Excuse me. She had forgotten how to live in the now and here. Up the elaborately tiled walkway to their sprawling hillside chateau, brush off Dionysus' ever-present red dust, stomp it off in the caked soles of her boots, reach for the door, a transformed and repentant Rona, with a devout promise lingering on her lips. As she flinched, as a child's agonized wail pierced her new resolve. One of her boys, an accident? With a suddenly pounding heart, she threw open the door and dashed inside. The wails came from the playroom. Rick sat in one of the boys' virtual game chairs, a howling tire cradled in his arms. Where have you been, Rona? Accusations simmered in his eyes. Those gorgeous blue eyes brimmed with tears. Jex was curled up on the floor beside his father and brother, snot bubbling out of his nose as he sobbed. What happened? She rushed over to them and crouched beside the chair. Surely an accident, a little boy boo-boo, a cut, a bump, bruise maybe. Just from a nightmare. All Rex could choke out was a body racking. He's got it. Tyler clutched his father so tightly Rona almost missed the first blister forming on his forearms, his exposed calves, his precious little bare feet. No, this could not be. Raya had cured it, hadn't she? This was a bad dream. Wake up, Rona, you stupid, cracking flink. No, she gasped, barely a whisper. Someone was echoing no, no, no over and over, and a distant part of her mind realized that the scratchy voice was hers. She leaped up and staggering backwards away from the horror that couldn't be happening, mustn't be happening. Shaking her head, unable to stop, her whole body trembled as if a cataclysm was raising the planet. She stumbled past the couch and the game projectors, watched Tyre pull his little head off Rix's chest, and saw the crusty blisters on Rix's neck. Dear gods, no. Where are you going? Tyra needs you now. We need you. I can't. I gotta go. I'll be back as quick as I can, I swear. Rona, Mommy, it burns. She screamed, tugging at her hair. She staggered towards the front door, hearing her family cry out for her. Torn between running to them and fleeing from the nightmare, she grabbed her shock wand, usually to fend off oversized pests on her way out the door, stumbled down the overpriced tile steps, nearly flew along the dusty trail bordering the sapphire, her heart about to burst. One more glimpse, just to be sure. The lackadaisical guard posted beside the chamber building grinned and waved at her as she ran up the entrance. Hey, Rona, weren't you just here? You know I have to check. With a savage growl, she plunged the shockwave's tip into the guard's gut and pressed the trigger. His eyes bulged and his body jittered as the jolt knocked him unconscious. He collapsed to the ground. She leaped over him, dashed towards the chamber. Her ears popped as the door's vacuum sealed locked. Huffing, she swiped the tears out of her eyes and gave the verbal command for another peek. Initiate forward sequence. Rona. Cog. Games. Unauthorized jaunt, the machine's disembodied voice replied. 1 week's wait is required between... Override, damn it. Emergency authorization code 904632. Authorizing. The few seconds was an eternity of torture, but a single user's code worked. She blinked and was thrown into the penthouse overlooking the coast of the Great Basin where she had first glimpsed her glorious future. She gasped as she watched other Rona and her husband curled on the elegant parquet floor beside their two boys. All of them were covered in bloody lesions and crackling blisters. Separating sores, they wheezed as their lungs struggled a last few anguished breaths. No, 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 Rona shrieked. Other Rona's heads swiveled towards her with a sickening scritch of tearing flesh. She glared at Rona, her eyes rimmed of accusation. She sees and hears me this time, Rona thought. Me, Ghost Rona, now when nothing matters anymore. Other Rona's voice quavered with a mucus-laden rasp as she spoke. This is all your fault, our fault. We did this. She waved her bloody hand at her family, cackled, hopelessly mad. Her lonesome laugh echoed in Rona's ears, spanning across multiple quantum probabilities. Home, 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 Rona cried. She blinked back into the sterile chamber with her belly aching. Unborn little Raya was kicking as if possessed by Raya's spirit and seeking vengeance for an unforgivable deed. Spewing tears and spittle and snot, Raina clutched her gut and raced home. Rix and the boys were gone when she arrived. The audio message played back in Rix's tortured voice as she opened the door. We're going to the hospital where you should be, Rona. Please come. We need you. She went, recklessly breaking laws as her flyers sped there, constantly feeling little Raya kick. And she was there for them, all she had promised. Her irreplaceable, precious family, though all their anguish and pain embodied broken heart and shattered mind, but her spirit was crushed beyond redemption. 4 years passed in endless, heart-wrenching agony, each day there and then gone in a tear-filled blink. The doom-laden moments simultaneously seemed to stretch into an eternity of torturous way that destroyed Rona piece by piece. By the end of the first year, Rix had outlasted their boys by 3 months, multiplying his agony 100-fold before he finally choked out his last bloody grasp. This was the price Rona paid for one selfish, irreversible act and kept on paying. If only her chamber ghost could travel to the past in this dimension and tell her former self why she had to stop her insane, stupid, jealous, greedy, crackering master plan. She miscarried little Raya in the middle of her third trimester. The stillborn fetus was almost covered in Krillion's damnation. Her parents joined the growing legions of the rotting dead 2 months later. The loss and woe didn't stop there. Krillion sprang up Dionysus with a vengeance, ghostly talons that shredded fragile flesh, and an invisible demon born in the vast emptiness of space, reaching ravenous tendrils toward an arrogant species full of the hubris of conquest. In the first quarter of the third year, Half of Dionysus' population was gone, deader than the red sands atop Crimson's Bluff. At the end of the 4th year, when Rona turned 29, 90% of the population was dust. Food stopped shipping. Utilities were intermittent. The last gasp of Dionysus' abundant underground waters had turned from a stream to a trickle. Electricity was a stream of the past. Healthcare was non-existent. And after Krillion's 3rd wave hit and the casualties were assessed, all the doctors and most of the nurses had become victims. More dust to mix with Dionysus. So much for their insistence that the disease wasn't contagious or airborne. Determined to kill, it had mutated. Help wasn't coming from without. Space travel didn't work that way, at least not yet. The nearest inhabited colony was light years away. Nevertheless, the distress code and detailed SOS audio had been laser-wired outward in an infinite recurring loop the moment panicking officials had declared Krillion's corruption a global pandemic. A planet killer, they called it. Although technically the planet would abide eons after its bitter winds and carving sands had reduced the colonies and their ardent colonists to more red dust. By the time anyone arrived, the only thing their archaeologists would find would be scattered relics from an ancient ruins of a doomed civilization. Civilization, Rona croaked, grimacing at her cadaverous reflection in the bathroom's grubby mirror. What a wretched, cracking pile of gretch dung she had become. Mustering the final resolve she had amassed this afternoon, she scraped enough water out of the toilet tank to clean the mirror. Then she washed her face, careful not to burst any of the blisters. Brushed her lackluster hair, put on some lipstick that blended with the sands of the Dionysus. Applied just enough mascara to disguise her haunted gaze. She didn't dare brush her loose rotting teeth. She donned the mother-of-pearl, knee-length, strapless dress she had worn at her junior prom, the one Raya had raved about with such innocent joy that Rona teased her about it until she finally relented and let Raya wear it for her own junior prom the following year. She wanted that back, that closeness parents couldn't share with their children or children with their parents, a timeless bond that only sisters knew. White indoor slip-on sneakers completed the ensemble. Cracked the intrepid explorer's boots. It wasn't like she would need to wash the sneakers later. She had saved the last 8% of charge of her extravagant flyer retained for the special occasion. It was just enough power plus a little bit more to take her to her destination. According to the gauges from her reading this afternoon, the anti-grav unit was fully functional. Before she hopped in, she did a slow 360, scanned her world, the one she had made. The Sapphire's distant roar was a constant undercurrent that whispered a wordless promise. The buildings were fine, a testament to the humanity in architectural design, stability, longevity, progress, and creativity. In a way, they were beautiful, but they were empty shells without their human occupants. She raised a hand to shade her eyes as she contemplated the cliffs that nearly split the planet in two. The sun was setting over the bluffs, and she wished she could share the awe-inspiring sight with a child, a husband, a friend, with Raya. She had none of the above. She was raising a trembling leg to step inside her ride to the best present ever when a voice behind her made her spin around. Rona! Gods, it was her, finally, or one of her. Semi-transparent, but clearly Raya all the way, with about a decade to add smooth to her former teenage gawkiness. A ghost Raya here and now, able to speak this time. Beautiful, healthy, happy, but a sadness in her eyes reflected the depths of the raging river. Rona blurted, I was wondering, hoping if you would ever come. Ghost Raya, from a not-too-distant path in a parallel dimension, sighed and then shrugged. I've always come, always been watching you. All of you, ever since I turned 15 and was officially approved. You're all I have left of you, Rona. Rona cringed as the realization struck her. The watcher had always been the watched. How many times, Raya? I mean, how many me's? The real question tasted like ashes on Rona's tongue that she couldn't spit it out. How many Ronas murdered her sister, Raya? Ghost Raya nodded, standing tall, straight, and confident in every move. Most of them. Of you. All of alternate yous. Rona tried to tell herself it was a ghost of someone who might be somewhere else, unreachable, even after all the jaunts pointless, absurd effort to try to see the future. What a cracking fool she had been. With that pleading, get everything she want look that sent a rush of nostalgia tingling through Rona, Ghost Raya said, "Don't you see, Rona? In every reality, it's not anything as abstract as fate or destiny that decides us. It's us. We are the masters of our own destinies, and only we make our future. It's built by everything we do, the cumulative product of all our deeds." Rona laughed, halfway a sob, wondering if the change she forged in life would shackle her in the afterlife. "Well, I've certainly made one hell of a cracking mess of mine, haven't I? But not all of you have done so. Sometimes you've pulled me back from the ledge. Sometimes I slipped and you saved me. Sometimes you didn't even push me and we went home together and grew up and made all our dreams come true." The Ghost Raya winced and waved her hand at her other sister. It doesn't always end this way." Rona shook her head, finding a lost smile. "It does here, to me." Ghost Raya stepped closer, and somehow she was Rona's lost sister, not murdered, still semi-transparent, still a ghost, but more here now. Rona believed that she could almost reach out and touch the tears spilling out of her little sister's eyes. "We could have had it all, Rona, together, in every imaginable reality." Rona wasn't going to say how sorry she was. Apparently, any number of Rayas had already heard it from any number of Ronas. She stifled a sob, wanting to be the strong one for the one of her last remaining sisters, the one who had reached out to contact her, despite all the horrors her various incarnations had committed. "Will you come, be there with me?" Raya hesitated, staring at the red dust at her feet. She started to reply, then just nodded. "Meet me there," Rona said, a forgotten delight reaching her heart. "Last one there has to do laundry for a month." Raya just nodded again, her luminous eyes reflecting all the losses they had shared. In the flyer, cranking it up for one more ride, then up, and away, awed again by the most astounding geological accident mankind had yet to discover in its infinite travels to see the stars. It still took her breath away, even after all these years, even despite her losses, all the grief and death she had caused. 11,000 feet of near eternal magnificence scrolled down past her as she rose. She sniffed, smelling the freedom it promised. When she parked atop the crimson bluffs near the edge, Raya was already there. Rona climbed out of the flyer with a relieved sigh. "You win again." So much in that simple statement. Back in the phase of the 6-year cycle when they rose side by side and in full in what should have been an unforgettable spectacle to share with the world, or at least one priceless, irreplaceable sister, Horatio and Othello glared at the pitiful human woman atop the bluffs, and now her judge, jury, and executioner. Raya shook her head, sprinkling tears. "I've always loved you, Rona, no matter what. All the yous, all the me's, always will." Rona choked out a bloody, spittle-flecked laugh, gazing down at the army of swelling blisters and the supporting lesions on her arms and legs. The leaking pus on her chest had already stained her pretty dress. She nodded at her sister, a nod for all of them in lieu of another pointless apology. Another Rona might find or make a brief victory somewhere. This was her world, her own personal damnation. Let the gods weep for their children unheard here. In time, a mere blink in the eye of eternity, those children and all their gods would vanish in Dionysus' winds, drowned in its dust. Ghost of a dream that died with her sister. With a final wave to the survivor, who was courageous enough to come and say goodbye, Rona stepped off the edge. She didn't scream, she didn't cry out, she didn't make a sound. But near the end of the long fall that finally set her free, as the Whiplash Rapids, jagged on the Sapphire River, rose to welcome the return of an old friend, she softly whispered, "I'm coming, Raya." And hopefully, I know that was a long read, but I hope that you enjoyed the story, and you can see why this was the first place winner of the Amy's Bookshelf Reviews short story contest. So if you're an author who wants your book to be on the show, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast for more information. If you're an author and you want your book to be reviewed, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com for more information. And of course, always subscribe to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews, so when there is another contest, you might be able to win as well. And if you're looking for a good book, you might want to check out my reviews and maybe take me up on some of my recommendations. Thank you again, and talk to you again next week. This has been Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Thank you for listening. And always, be kind and stay safe. Thank you.